Okay, today we're going to be looking at Can't You Hear Me Knocking, the Stones classic from Sticky Fingers. I'm going to be looking at the Keith Richards licks, which are some of my favorite of Keith's and certainly would make most people's top 10 list of iconic Keith Richards riffing. I've looked at most of the YouTube lessons on this and looked at a lot of tab, and so what I'm going to be doing is essentially consolidating what I've seen and putting into what I think sounds closest to what the record sounds like. Not interested in splitting hairs on the minutia. If you think I'm missing something here or there, don't send me comments, because what I really want to show you here is how to have some fun with this, not to deeply explore the mind of Keith Richards, because after all, that would be a trip that you might not ever come back from. I'm going to play this through to a drum track, slowed down, slower than the record. I'm going to play the intro and the verse and a little bit of the chorus. The chorus would be something like, breaking this down. The tuning is, of course, open G, like so many of the classic Keith licks. Don't worry about your E strings, your first and sixth strings. Keith doesn't use those. As we know, he pretty much frequently removes the low E string. So don't even bother tuning those down. If you did, you'd tune them down to D. The main string you need to tune down is simply the fifth string, the A string. Tune it down to G. So play your third string G, and then bring your fifth string down so it sounds the same. Not difficult, right? So what you end up having is those four strings play an open G chord. You take your first position A chord, which you normally would bar three strings, we're now going to bar four. And you can slide that all over the neck. The main riffage of Can't You Hear Me Knocking is simply a D and a C. And those would be the forms that you'd normally play like this, that movable A bar shape. But because we're bringing the, retuning that fifth string, instead of needing to put your finger here, it's just here. So that's a D chord. So we're starting up at that 7th fret, D major chord, and we're just going to riff off that. And we're playing the Chuck Berry style double stops that Keith is so fond of. To review, a double stop is simply playing two notes together on adjacent strings. Keith Richards style in this case. So we're starting at that 7th fret. We're going to play 10, 9, 7 on the 3rd and 4th strings. Okay, just go down. Come back 9 to 7. So 10, 9, 7, 9, 7. 10, 9, 7. And then just hammer off it on the 4th string. That's the very first lick. And then you stay on that 5th and 4th strings, hammering on the 4th at the 10th and 11th. Kind of want to click your string a little bit in between these two hammer-ons. The first two licks. Then he does this little stutter step, this little skip. So you play the 10th bar, the 4th and 3rd strings, skips over the 9th that time, goes right to the 7th, and goes back. So the part on the 5th and 4th strings is essentially the same, but it starts with that little skip. Riff is just going right down, 7, 10, 9. So far then we have second riff, third riff, now the 4th riff is just a sweep bend, double stop bend, 4th and 3rd string at the 9th fret, bend and release. And then you go back to that chunk like at the beginning. And then it just kind of hammers on the 7. Classic little double stop hammer on and off from the 9th to the 7th. So one more time slowly the entire intro into the first verse. Come down to the C, you're going to do the hammer on the 7th fret, mainly the 2nd and 3rd strings, and just go back 5th to 7th. You pick up a little of that 4th string, it's not a big... It's kind of hard to know exactly how Keith plays it, but the main important ones are the 3rd and 2nd strings. In the vocal section, in the verses section, are the ones where there's the least agreement that I found in the lessons and tabs. Keith's kind of all over the place doing some funky things over the D, but the first time he definitely does a, just like the intro, 10, 9, 7, 10, 9, 7 on the 4th and 3rd, then the 4th and 5th. So what that is, instead of going back to the D, he goes to the G, open, and then the D. And the second time I played that, I gave it a different wrinkle by playing the G at the octave. You can do it either way. I think most tabs I saw have them playing it open. I kind of think it's kind of fun to play it up at the octave. But that's essentially it during the verses. You've got the C, D, or the second time I went, you know, whatever. I was just putting anything in there. And then so you're either doing fills over the D or going G to D. And then the chorus, hear me, baby, no stranger, goes G, F, C, G. Again, I like to play that first G up high. Some people play it open. G, F, C, G. But I think it sounds better all descending. That's basically it. That's Can't You Hear Me Knockin'. It's a lot of fun. Play around with that movable A shape. Tune your A string down and riff on that to your heart's content, and you will have a good time. I'm using the 4-way Fender switch, so I've got both of these Nocaster pickups in series. For sort of more of a thick humbuckerish tone. I'm using a Fender Pro Junior with a Weber Signature Series Alnico 10S, which I found is the best speaker for this amp. I compared the Eminence Ramrod and the Weber Alnico Blue Pup, and the Signature 10S is great for this, and it's also the cheapest. I'm running this through a Dan Electro version 1 Cool Cap drive, which is a spicy little overdrive pedal as well. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.